Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin the program today with the warning from the World Health Organization cautioning against jumping into conclusions about the efficacy of coronavirus vaccines. Now, this comes after a South African study suggested that the AstraZeneca jab was less effective against the local variant of the virus. But experts are hopeful that the vaccine will still be effective at preventing severe cases.
Yesterday, South Africa announced that it was putting a temporary hold on the rollout of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine after a study showed it was minimally effective at preventing mild to moderate disease caused by a variant first identified in South Africa. This is clearly concerning news. However, there are some important caveats. Given the limited sample size of the trial and the younger, healthier profile of the participants, it's important to determine whether or not the vaccine remains effective in preventing more severe illness. In the next few days, WHO expects to make a decision on the emergency use listing of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine for the 2 sites in India and the Republic of Korea, which will produce it for COVAX. We're committed to using all available data to make these assessments. In the meantime, COVAX continues to prepare for its first quarter distribution and to add to its vaccine portfolio.
Meanwhile, the lead investigator on the South African trial of AstraZeneca's vaccine says he believes the jab has a major role to play in Africa and also globally, despite the data showing the vaccine offered minimal protection against mild to moderate COVID-19 disease. Shabir Madhi from the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg says the 1 million AstraZeneca doses already in the country should be rolled out immediately, since they expire in April, and it will be reckless to waste them.
So I still believe that AstraZeneca vaccine has got a major role to play in Africa and globally. It might not be the vaccine that we need to be able to reach the so-called herd immunity threshold, which probably in all likelihood is not unlikely to occur just with vaccination on its own. But it probably has got a role to play in terms of protecting those individuals that are at greatest risk of developing severe disease and of dying. It doesn't make any sense to have 1 million doses of vaccine available to us, which are known to be safe, and not to start distributing it, at least for high-risk groups. And then once it's distributed, then you've got, in fact, greater power. You've got greater ability to get good data in terms of what effect the vaccine has had on severe disease. It's unlikely that.
Well, as experts are expressing confidence in COVID-19 vaccines and vaccinations, some frontline workers are still skeptical. Nurses in South Africa battling several epidemic diseases, sometimes vaccinating other South Africans, say they will not be taking the COVID-19 shot when it rolls out because they do not trust its safety or effectiveness. Now that South Africa has put on hold the use of AstraZeneca's vaccine after the data showed it may not protect sufficiently well against the country's variant, Lerato Mutunzi says she feels even less inclined, and she also says it's a feeling that she shares with most of 17,000 young nurses of her Indaba union.
Hell no, we will not be taking this vaccine until there are clinical trials that assures healthcare workers that indeed this vaccine is safe, that indeed this vaccine will not leave many of us having secondary conditions, until we are sure that it does not only pose danger to us, but also it is safe for our loved ones, the communities we serve, that it is safe. We do not trust the vaccine. Obviously, there's a lot of contradicting stories out there. WHO itself has not given us the confidence so much, and also the very manufacturers of the very vaccine have not come out and said, look, we put our heads in the guillotine. We can definitely say this is safe, this is for everyone.
Well, the number of positive COVID-19 cases at a British military training camp in Kenya has risen to 11 from 4 amid concerns from locals about its spread. The British Army says all soldiers who arrived at Nanyuki base last month were still in isolation, and 320 military staff have since been placed in quarantine. A Kenyan employee at the base says they were informed to remain at home over the weekend following the confirmation of several cases in the base. He also said the Kenyan staff had not been too close to the new arrivals from the UK, but that some local staff had been temporarily hired to work at the base in the meantime. Now, the main concern from the workers is the possible stigma from locals in the area north of Nairobi, who they say are now eyeing them suspiciously after they announced the outbreak. Well, we have joining us now for more on this story, Kenyan journalist Abby Agina in Nairobi. Thank you, Abby, for speaking to us. What more can you tell us about this outbreak in the British Army camp? We know it was shut down for over 3 months last year before being reopened again.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. Well, so far we do understand that 4 British Army soldiers have been confirmed to have tested positive for coronavirus. And so far the camp has been shut. As the reports we've received, we do understand that the camp has about 320 servicemen, and majority of them have been taken into isolation as we speak. And the Ministry of Health has been channeling communication through the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they've been very limited information coming to us. That's the much we can report as of now.
All right, so how are the authorities then handling the situation? Because, you know, some locals are being fearful now, especially since the outbreak was announced.
Yes, what we know is that from information coming in is that the government apparatus that have been charged with communicating this issue, they've been actually passing out information indicating that the locals that live around Nanyuki camp, majority of them have been asked, of course, to avoid going into the camps for the simple reason that there's been that outbreak. And most of the soldiers are currently under quarantine. The 4 British soldiers who had come in had traveled from the UK, and the cases have been confirmed. And as of now, the matter is being closely guarded to avoid a lot of speculation. But as we get more information, we'll be able to share more updates.
All right, let's just talk about the general fight against COVID-19 in Kenya, especially as countries around the world are, you know, rallying to get vaccines. What is Kenya's position on vaccines and even vaccination?
Well, the vaccine in Kenya is expected to be here come 14th of February, as of the communication from the Ministry of Health. And we are targeting to be bringing in more than 4 million doses. And the specific vaccine that will be shipped in will be the under the COVAX program. And it will be costing the government about 34 billion Kenyan shillings. And to put it into perspective, the locals will not be paying a single coin. The government will cater for this. And for patient, the government's rollout plan is that most of those who will be given the vaccine, they'll start off with the medical workers, then they will transition to the security services, that is the police, and thereafter they'll be going to the elderly and those with underlying conditions. As of now, the vaccine will be under the custody of the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health will be working very closely with the airport authorities, because the vaccines, once they arrive, they need to be put under the cold chain storage value chain. By this, it will be able to ensure that the vaccine is state is kept in the original form since it was shipped in. And the vaccine that will be applied in Kenya will be, of course, the AstraZeneca and also the Moderna vaccine.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Abby Agina, Kenyan journalist. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Mozambique's newly appointed head of the military, Eugenio Usene Musa, is said to have died on Monday after contracting COVID-19. He died while undergoing treatment at Mozambique's biggest health facility, the Maputo Central Hospital. Now, his death comes less than a month after he took office, as he was sworn in as Chief of the General Staff on the 20th of January. Before assuming the post, he was in charge of operations at the Northern Theatre of Operations, whose mission was to combat Islamist militants in the gas-rich province of Cabo Delgado. He admonished the military parade last month that 2021 would be a decisive year for combating terrorism in the country. Well, health officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo have started tracing those who came in contact with a patient who died from Ebola. The 42-year-old woman died last Wednesday in North Kivu province, just 2 days after developing symptoms of the disease. A team of epidemiologists are now on ground investigating the case as authorities disinfect the sites visited by the patient. The World Health Organization has already identified more than 70 contact cases of the disease, and the DRC Health Minister, Eteni Longodo, says doctors are determining whether the latest cases are from a new strain of the disease. The country had 3 months ago declared the end of its 11th Ebola outbreak that killed 55 people. Now, this new case makes it the 12th outbreak in the country. The UN Security Council is to meet on Tuesday to discuss Somalia's political uncertainty. Somalia's opposition has vowed not to recognize President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, whose term ended on Monday. It remains unclear when elections will be held, as Somalia's president remains quiet on the way forward for the country. Talks between the federal government and regional states on how to proceed with the elections collapsed last week. To avoid a power vacuum, a parliamentary resolution passed last year allows the president and parliament to remain in office until successors are elected. However, the UN continues to call for dialogue among Somali leaders. The trial of 2 Central African Republic rebel leaders scheduled to open at the International Criminal Court on Tuesday has now been postponed till the 16th of February. Alfred Yekatom and Patrice Eduardo Ngiasona face 21 and 32 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity, respectively. The alleged crimes include intentionally directing an attack against civilian population. Now, they are to be tried jointly as the charges relate to the same attacks. Mr. Ngiasona had previously denied all charges. Now, the CAR was plunged into turmoil in 2013 when predominantly Muslim rebels from the Seleka group seized power in the majority Christian country. The European Union has joined the US in calling for the withdrawal of Eritrean troops from neighboring Ethiopia's Tigray state, the presence of whom it said was fueling that conflict in the state. Both Ethiopia and Eritrea have previously rejected accusations of Eritrean presence in Tigray, but their denial has sometimes been contradicted by remarks from officials within the Ethiopian government. In the EU statement, the EU said it remained very concerned by the tragic humanitarian crisis unfolding in Tigray and urges Ethiopia to ensure unrestricted humanitarian access as well as protection of civilians and refugees. In response, Eritrean Information Minister Yemane Meskel called the statement appalling for the fundamental issues that it glossed over. Let's move on to Sudan, where the Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has named a new cabinet which includes 7 former rebel leaders who were part of a peace deal signed in October. Mr. Hamdok dissolved the previous cabinet on Sunday to form a more inclusive government on Monday. 2 ministers were selected from the military. Many are from the Forces for Freedom and Change, which led the protests that saw Omar al-Bashir ousted from power. The Prime Minister gave the role of Finance Minister to the veteran rebel leader and economist Jibril Ibrahim. Now, this is at a time of sky-high inflation and food and fuel shortages in the country. Being Sudan's foreign minister in a volatile region will also be a major test, as that job has gone to Mariam al-Sadiq Mahdi. She is the daughter of Sudan's last democratically elected Prime Minister, Sadiq Al-Mahdi. Also, Sudanese journalist Mohamed Alamin joins us now from Khartoum for more on this. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Now, with this new cabinet members named, tell us the big difference between the former members and this.
Actually, the formation of the previous government in August 2018 has adopted a technocrat government that, you know, the forces, the coalition, the ruling coalition of the Forces of Freedom and Change, FFC, has not participated in the last government and only nominated some technocrats for this government. But now this government is formed by direct intervention of the FFC. They, as you mentioned, the foreign minister is from the National Ummah Party, and the other Sudanese Congress Party have also 2 members in the government, and other parties. Also, the other very new thing is the participation of the rebel movements of the Sudanese Revolutionary Front, of the forces of the JEM movement and others. They participated in this government as this is one of the commitment of the Juba Peace deal that signed last year, and it hopes that may change the situation in the civil war regions. So the inclusion of the new rebels is new, and the change and the shift from technocrat government to a clear political government.
Now, we understand there are still some military men in Mr. Hamdok's cabinet. Now, what does this say about, you know, Sudan's planned transition to democracy? Some might say, you know, it's putting old wine in new bottle.
Yeah, actually, you know, in terms of the number of the military members, there are only 2 members in this government, which is the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Interior, which been nominated, appointed even by the army. But you know, the agreement itself that signed in 2019 and made this partnership between the military and civilians, according to the constitutional declaration that signed by that time, it's actually given most of the power actually to the army, to the sovereign council, which is really headed the country, leading the peace process, leading the economy, leading the foreign relations, and doing a lot of unilateral steps like the normalization with Israel, like a lot of steps with the United States, with Russia as well. So this government is not civilian-led government, and this is one of the main problems of the government. And as you said, that's the change that made that I said earlier is actually a very formative change that will not going to change. It's only changing the faces of the government, but it's not changing actually shifting the power from the army to the new government. The power is still in the hands of the army, and the influence of the army is really controlling the situation in the country, and the roles of the army in the politics in Sudan is still going on, and that's one of the main threats to the Hamdok's cabinet
Administration. All right, just before I let you go, Mohammed, what has been the reaction from citizens to these new members of the cabinet?
Yeah, you know, the people, they don't care about what is going on in politics because of the economy deterioration. The economy is very down, and the government is actually going further with its new liberal economic policies after the delisting of Sudan and the rush of the government to adopt the IMF and the World Bank policies and lifting the subsidies of a lot of, main essential commodities. So the the people are really suffering under the economic situation and do not care about the change of of the politics. And this is a big gap between the civilian government which has come after the revolution and the demands of the people, the grassroots on the ground.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Mohamed Alamin, Sudanese journalist in Khartoum. Thank you for joining us. Mozambican authorities are warning of an upcoming cyclone that will affect the central provinces of Zambezia and Sofala, and also the southern province of Inhambane. Now, the National Meteorological Institution, INAM, predicts the cyclone will land on the 13th of February, and if it does, it will be Mozambique's third cyclone in the current raining season after cyclones Chelane and Eloise. INAM also says the situation is as a result of a low-pressure system that was formed in the Mozambique Channel on Sunday. The current projections indicate that this meteorological system has a strong chance of reaching the stage of tropical depression by Thursday. The institute says it continues to monitor the weather and is asking the public to adhere to warnings that will be issued by government agencies. Mozambicans have in the past been caught up in flooding despite warnings from the government to move to higher grounds. And that's all we have for you for today on Network Africa. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.